What's everybody? It's Quinton and the Hunters of Light, and today we're talking to Tarryn Goldman. We've had a bit of technical, ups and downs, etc. We've got a bit of load shedding in our area, so Tarryn is actually sitting downstairs from me, so there is a bit of an echo, and you hear my voice, etc. Just bear with us. We're doing the best we can with the technical restrictions that we have. So I must say, I've never heard of the Impasto process, and I was amazed by the images that Tarryn has created through this technique. So Tarryn's going to be taking us through this whole process, her latest portrait photography, going through everything from her inspirations, the process, material, set building, and the actual production of the images, and maybe even touch on a bit of post-production. Tarryn is a portrait, lifestyle, and fashion photographer based in Johannesburg. She's a proud mother, passionate photographer, deep-based devotee, avid bookworm, information collector, internet addict, Bourbon loving, sunset junkie, unofficial graphic designer, and cloud observing dreamer. So I don't know what else to say. Tarryn, over to you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having me, Quinton. I'm very excited to be here to chat to everyone. I'm sorry if it looks a bit like I'm a bit out there at the moment, but I can't actually see you guys out there, obviously. I just wanted to start off and take you through a couple of processes that I've done. So, sure, Quinton, must I just start off with the first picture, or must I just...
I'll share the screen for you. There we go.
Okay, so this process actually started for me at the beginning of lockdown last year, when I was looking for something to do, and obviously I'd been at home for about 2 weeks or so, and I started looking online for a bunch of competitions, and I went to Africa Photo Awards, and I had a look at it, and it looked like a great competition, and I wanted to enter, but I was a bit confused as to which category to enter, basically. So whether it be the fine arts category or the conceptual category, because I had a look at the images and I couldn't really see a difference between the two. Like I could not say this is definitely fine art and this is definitely conceptual. To me, they kind of blended. And I was getting quite frustrated because no one would give me a straight answer as to what exactly is the difference. And I said to a mate of mine that, if you took if you took a photo of a fine art painting, would it be considered fine art or would it be conceptual? And basically that's how it started. And so I thought I had this idea to actually take something and paint it literally, and then take a photograph. And only once I actually did it and I looked through the lens, and I realized it completely collapsed the image. I mean, it made something that was initially 3D into a completely 2D kind of process. So I just kind of started from there. And then I just moved on from there, and I went ahead and I painted a couple of apples, and it's quite difficult to paint the inside of a fruit. I don't know if anyone's tried, but that's not the easiest thing in the world. And then I kind of thought, okay, well, if I can find someone who's willing to let me do it, I will happily try and paint a person. And this was my daughter, who very, very willingly sat for me for the entire 2 hours and got completely covered in paint. I think this was during winter as well. And I was just very excited by the process, and kind of took it from there.
It's very cool. I mean, I'm amazed at how the couple of different brushstrokes just make it look so fantastic. It changes it completely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is that you can basically make a completely real world into anything in your wildest dreams, as long as you've got the paint to do it. And I was also amazed at how it kind of translated onto camera, excuse me, how it actually moved the images, except for the eyes, obviously, which I left normal. It's the only thing that kind of lets you see exactly what it is, which is a completely 3D image. So this is the next one that I did, and this is the one that I entered into the Africa Photo Awards. This was a long process. I started about 3 days before and did a background, and set up the set and got the light ready, and just kind of worked as I went, and it worked out very well. I was very happy with the image.
You said that
And
this took you like 2 days to put together.
yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't quite sure what I was doing, and I was not quite sure what kind of effect I wanted to have. I just kind of painted as I went and just kind of took a step back and took a look at the camera and had a look and see what it was like. And only when on the third day, when my model came in, that I actually painted the clothes and the hair, and we made it a wine day at home. we drank lots of wine.
Yeah, I was going to ask whether the model had sat like that for 2 days, or if it was how
Well,
you managed that
no.
process.
No. So when she came in, I'd like to. The process that I normally go through with this kind of thing is I'll have my idea, I'll choose my color palette, and then I'll go and I'll start at home in my studio, and I'll start painting, and I'll see what comes from that. And then only once I've finished the set and all of that, then my model will come in. But I mean, she has to sit for a good 2 hours or so. But the great thing is that whichever way she moved, the process, the picture was the same. The whole look was the same.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was quite exciting for me. And yeah, so I moved over to, this is my third one that I've done. And I got a guy model this time. And I left the hair out and left the eyes and whatever, but the kind of process was the same. And the result was the same, although it's slightly different.
So this is obviously the same sort of set or area that you do it in.
Right. So I just used a different set of paints. Basically, I mean, this paint is just normal household paint. And I started off trying to look for makeup and stuff like that to use, but the makeup is very, very expensive, first of all. And second of all, that the house paint actually is better because it creates like a film on your skin. So it doesn't actually soak into your skin, if you know what I mean. So it's not even though your skin is porous, it creates like a film on your skin. So it's very easy to get off afterwards. And this actually took a lot of paint. So what I ended up doing was going to a hardware store and buying a 5-liter white paint. And I don't know if you know that Plascon have released these like little paint additives which you can kind of add your own color.
Yes,
so they've got a range of them, which is all very pastel kind of colors, which has completely dictated my color palette on this. So yeah, it worked out quite well. Yeah, and that's basically it. But I mean, I've always loved this kind of photography for as long as I can remember, something different, something interesting, a little bit fantasy. It's taken me 10 years to kind of find my style, I think. But now that I love it.
What I like about these is that obviously you've got like your lighting is there, etc. But you can actually use a fairly generic lighting setup. But then by painting in the highlights and the shadows is where you really start making it work for you.
Absolutely, that's a great thing, is that you can kind of figure out what you want to look dramatic, or if you want it to look, playful, or however you wanted it to look. The lighting is pretty standard. I mean, it's just I used a one light setup in most of these, and I used a constant light in the other one, but it's a pretty standard one light setup. But yes, your painting is going to be the thing that informs your eye, where the shadows are, where the highlights are, etc., etc., etc.
I think it's very cool.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Yeah, I've had fun doing this, and it's something to do, when you're at home and I've always loved painting as well. So I'm a bit of an artist as well. So it's great to be able to meld the two, almost, if I can say.
Completely mixed media, huh?
Oh, completely mixed media, absolutely. I'm not sure if you wanted to see some of my other work, or if you wanted to, along the same lines of this kind of fantasy.
Well, whatever you've got to show us.
Yeah, sure. So I put together some of my favorite images. Also, wrong one. There we go. Yeah, so some of my favorite images probably started a while ago, probably about 10 years ago, with this image, which was it's a composite, and that's my daughter in the red hood. And when I put this together and how just everything came together, I was completely intrigued, and I probably spent the next 3 weeks up searching fantasy photographers and that kind of photography, just to kind of see where I was going. But yeah, it's been an interesting process for me, as far as photography goes, because trying to figure out whether the art and the photography kind of melds has been interesting and quite difficult. So yeah, I started off with a process of kind of going through Red Riding Hood, Snow White, Snow Queen, kind of having a look at the old, because my dad read to me a lot when I was a kid, so I read a hell of a lot. And so having a look at all the fantasy kind of novels and and books kind of as I went, kind of informed my choices as far as what to shoot and which direction to go in. But it's quite difficult. I mean, South Africa doesn't really have a market for this kind of portraiture, should I say. So it's all very personal work. It melts a bit with passion, but that's about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
This shoot was for actually a designer, a dress designer. When she'd seen my other work, was we actually got all of this jasmine from her garden. We literally put the entire hedge of jasmine on the floor in her garden, in her studio, and we shot these dresses, which was absolutely gorgeous. But I think it melds nicely with the fantasy kind of feel and look and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. I really love the way that it all sort of ties together. And there must have been a huge amount of jasmine that you pulled out of the garden.
It was an enormous, like she had to redo the hedge. So she said to me, like, I'm going to throw this jasmine away. So do you want to use it for a shoot? And I was like, yes. I think there was one other, we did one with it calling out falling out the cupboard, and it was like a kind of Narnia, kind of going to Wonderland, Narnia kind of feeling, which was great. So yeah, so this was an image I did for the fine arts image that I told you about earlier that I entered into Africa Photo Awards. This was for the conceptual category. And I basically chose a bunch of titles. I chose Fish Out of Water, Head in the Clouds, and basically literally demonstrated that. And this was shot somewhere in Houghton, I think, with one of my friends, and some goldfish and what have you. I had this beautiful purple dress, and it was exactly around the time that the jacaranda trees were. And every year it comes around. I've been in Joburg for like 10 years now. And every year it comes around, like, what am I going to do this year? And try and kind of stretch your brain, because it's so beautiful that you just want to do something, just as far as that goes. This was the same girl, actually, funny enough. This is for another group that I joined during lockdown called the ISO kind of Fuji group. They are fantastic. They launched a competition as well, where they basically gave us a challenge every single week. And, because you don't have much to do during lockdown, whatever. So it was really, really great to think about it, how you're going to conceptualize it and actually shoot it. And every week they gave us I think a word, and we had to interpret that word however we wanted to. So this was just a really random kind of shoot for that. And yeah, that's basically the same thing. This is just what I love doing. I love shooting fashion, and I love shooting a fantasy and trying to meld the two together. Are there any questions out there? That
not at the moment.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, also a lot of flowers and pretty pictures and whatever, but it's just, there's a sense of fantasy to it almost, which I absolutely adore. And yeah, not quite sure what else to say.
So this one obviously composite of the model in the background, and you've removed whatever.
No, this was actually not a composite. She was lying on a ladder right near my house. There's a huge field, and we managed to get her to put on the ladder and just take it from there. But it was a great day. I try to go out and shoot about maybe 4 or 5 images, if I can. Get 5 or 6 or 4 or 5 images of the same girl in different positions, different outfits, on location from different areas and whatever. The same thing with this. This is in a field, beautiful girl, actually a member of a band. And yeah, that was about it.
So Christy's got a question, and she hasn't mentioned which of the shots, but I'm assuming it's the Impasto process. How long is the prep for one of those shoots? It's obviously not, it's not just what you do in the studio. It's the time beforehand.
So the prep, do you mean the prep as in like the actual painting prep, or the actual like preparing?
Well, preparing, coming up with the idea and deciding what you're going to do, etc.
Well, the most difficult thing I think is to try and find a model.
Yes.
Believe it or not, trying to find someone who's actually willing to, because my daughter's blatantly told me there's no chance in hell that she's letting me do that to her again. So that's the longest kind of process, and deciding what I want to do, because there's so much that you can do. But I think once I've kind of decided, the prep is not too long. It's just basically, I've always got paint in my studio, and I use hardboard, just strips of hardboard, which I nail onto my wall for that time. And then I paint up the wall and then paint the floor with the hardboard. And then I choose whichever, items of furniture I want to paint. You have to be quite sticky though, because paint is not that easy to get off. So it can be quite messy. And I don't think there's one item of clothing that I own that does not have paint on it somewhere. But it's the process of actually going to find what you want to paint. That's the longest part, I think. Deciding what to paint and trying to think about like a conceptual idea of where you want to take it. Because if you go there with no idea, then you're going to paint. Your paint's going to be all over the place. You're not quite sure what you're going to paint. I actually saw some of it was Christie's art the other day. It was a horse or something like that. So yeah, it was gorgeous. So I know you're a painter as well.
So the other question that has come up from Neil Mack is, what is the biggest challenge you face when conceptualizing one of these images?
Finding the model, finding someone who's actually willing to sit for me. And I haven't come across any enormous challenges yet. I think it's just a new process. So everything's a bit of a challenge at the moment. Deciding what colors, and I think the whole conceptual kind of part of the images is more about like trying to find something that will look cool 2D, but in a photo as well, and deciding how I'm going to use my model. I've always thought this would look really, really cool in video as well. But I don't really do video, so I need to find someone who's capable of doing a good video. But I think this will look amazing in video, for like a music artist or something like that.
Absolutely. Christy also wants to know what paint do you use? I know you mentioned house paint.
Yeah, I just use I know it's terrible. I just use normal house paint, normal white house paint, and Plascon. Is it Plascon? I think Plascon have got these little tubs of color, of like intense color, which you kind of mix with the paint. And I just basically, there's about 6 or 8 colors that I use. And they're all very kind of pastely white, kind of light colors. And I just use different intensities. Very much more about budget and been about accessibility. When we were first in lockdown, we weren't allowed to go to hardware stores. I mean, I can remember hardware stores, everything was closed down. So I had to use what paint I had house paint. But it's actually, as I said in the beginning, it makes it much easier for you to take off your skin, because it creates like a film on the skin. So it doesn't get actually absorbed by the skin. I'm sure someone's going to shoot me for saying this. But yeah, it doesn't get absorbed by the skin. This next image was also an image for the Africa Photo Awards. It was hot-headed, and it was great. I actually didn't have a thing on someone's head. I took, it was a composite of a plastic bag, which I lit in my studio, and a friend of mine, which I composited together. As my daughter, again, she has been on the receiving end of my photographs many, many, many times, and she's really, really tired of it. So if anyone wants to model, please let me know. Yeah, this is as well for Indigo. Sorry, my daughter's name was Indigo. Yeah, this is Indigo as well for a UV competition, or for the Africa Photo Awards. That was for, I think the word was UV or ultraviolet or something like that. And I went out and got big one of those big tubes of UV, which is great fun. If anyone's ever played with those, they're loads of fun. And I also got a whole lot of wigs from Wish, which is great fun as well. And yeah, these are mostly just composites with friends and models and stuff like that.
And Christy wants to know as well, when did you start entering competitions?
Last year for lockdown, literally.
Okay.
I started entering them because I was incredibly bored, and I kind of look for projects to do when I don't have anything to shoot or I'm not busy. And I really believe that personal work is very important. And to a photographer, I think that everyone should be doing a lot of personal work. I know we don't always have time, but you should make time because it'll keep your passion alive, and it'll keep you moving forward. And so yeah, literally last year, Africa Photo Awards was the one competition that I entered, and ISO was the other one. And that was mostly just because ISO had an online thing every week where they had a competition, and then two of my very, very huge heroes, Andre Badenhorst and Pierre, they were actually judging the competition every week. So they would come online and they would judge the top 5 or 10, whatever, and you get some feedback on your image, and they'd invite a guest judge every week. And that was a huge thing during lockdown. It was great because you got to hear these top-notch guys talk about their work and what they thought of your image. So yeah, only a year.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I think what you say about personal work is incredibly important because when I was speaking to Emmy last week, the big thing there is that if you provide or put personal work up, people are going to see that and you're going to get hired for more of that type of work. So I think it's very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, since I've put this work up, I've got maybe 4 or 5 clients, and I didn't even know there was actually a kind of a market out there for this kind of work. But I've had maybe 5 clients actually come to me and say, listen, I've seen your work. I love the fantasy stuff. I want to do a portrait for myself. I'm turning 30 or I'm turning 40 or whatever. And can we spend some time? And I mean, they've been fantastic portraits. I mean, like the one girl did a steampunk version, and that's always something that I can really throw myself into because I love that. I mean, aside from the actual shooting, I love the whole conceptualization of it. I love the organizing and the making of the props and the painting of the room and the doing all of that kind of stuff is of great enjoyment to me. And the final image is just basically a representation of all that hard work that's gone in there. And all of my clients so far have been blown away and they've absolutely loved their work. So yeah, absolutely. I couldn't recommend doing personal work more than anything.
It's quite interesting you say that, the final image is just the representation of all of that hard work. And I suppose that's the thing, the process is really part of the whole thing. You go through the deciding what to do, the model, painting the set, etc. And then you have this one image, which, I suppose doesn't really reflect the whole process.
No, well, I mean, that's it. At the end of the day, is I think it's got a lot to do with how in depth your process is. Often shows in your image. So I mean, if you really, I mean, some of my, like, if you have a look at someone like Gregory Crutzen, who I'm not sure if any of you know him, but he is a photographer who shoots on medium format, but he shoots these incredible, detailed, kind of almost how do you say, Baz Luhrmann-esque, sets with these people standing very strangely in them. And if you just go and have a look at him, his work is insane. It is absolutely insane. And the way I think he prints it like so huge. When you actually go up and you see the work, it's so impressive. But every little detail has been taken care of. And I mean, I've still got to get there. I'm not quite as particular as him. Or if you have a look at like someone like Bella Kotak or what's the other girl's name? There's a couple of them that actually do the props and stuff like that are insane. And yeah, I think it's a huge part of the process for me. A huge part of photography for me is the process of what comes before taking the photograph. I think it's just as important. Even on a normal shoot, I just recently shot someone on Sunday, a fitness outfit, and the prep for that was huge. I had to find the right background, and I had to find the backdrop, and I had to find the the props and whatever. And there's lots of people who like to deal that out to other people, but I love to do it. It's just
Right.
It's one of those things that I enjoy.
Well, I think it's part of the artistic process, making sure that you've selected the paint colors, and you know how you want to, where you want to put the paint, where you want to do all the bits and pieces, how you're going to light it. And I think it's quite nice to have that all within, your own hands.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really an important part for me because I think without it I would not enjoy photography nearly as much as I do. I think that if I was just literally snapping, like taking photographs, I would be bored very, very quickly. That's one of the things I love about photography, is that the fact that it's so fluid. It's always moving. I mean, there's always new things to learn. I don't think I've learned 1/10 of what there is to learn out there with photography. I mean, there's constantly new gear coming in, and just when I think I'm kind of getting on top of everything, a whole load of new stuff is like, oh my god, I don't know about that. And I'll just, I mean, I was so scared about flashes and about studio lights when I started that I didn't own a flash for maybe 2.5 years, and I was working in a nightclub. So I think that I got my flash, and it took me a while to get used to it. And I only got studio lights maybe 3 years ago, my first studio light. Yeah, so it's just always lots to learn and lots to know, and that's a great part about it.
So with these shoots, is there ever a time where you put all the work in, and you aren't happy with the outcome?
Oh gosh, often. It's I think because I'm at the stage, because I have to use friends as models, and I've never hired a model. I know there are models out there. I don't even know how much that costs, but I should probably do that. But because I use friends and family as models or whatever, they don't really know how to move all the time. A model who's a model knows how to move,
Right.
and a lot of the people that I use don't really know how to move, and sometimes the look just doesn't come together. I'll often go out and I have a certain idea in my mind, or like, so if I want to start planning a shoot, I will generally start up with a concept. That's the first thing. So this shoot, for example, was gold, the Byzantine kind of period, and so I base all my props and my background or whatever based on the concept of Byzantine. But sometimes it doesn't work, and I'm sure every photographer's got that, where they are just kind of, it just doesn't gel. You've done everything you can, but it just doesn't work, and there's nothing you can do about that. You just move forward. I don't like to try things again that often.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's important to be able to look at it and go, well, just keep trying, and if it doesn't work, just do the best that you can. I mean,
Oh
because at
yes.
the end of the day, that's how you're going to grow.
Yeah, I think when it really doesn't work and I've got to get the image, I resort to my Photoshop skills, which is very cheeky and naughty probably, but I've often taken a model and like completely cut it out from the background and plopped it into some other different arrangement or some other different background. And I think that like that's completely acceptable to do that. Someone asked me the other day to chat about whether the ethics of photography, and I think unless you're actually in photojournalism, Photoshop is 100% brilliant to use. Go ahead, you Photoshop the crap out of your work if you want to, because those are tools we've got today, and if you know how to use them properly, they can be incredibly useful. And I think I'm not saying I'm a journalistic photographer. I'm not making any kind of statement to say that this is what you're seeing is 100% real or true. So I think it's only fair that I'm able to use Photoshop to whatever extent I'm able to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to be processing the images in some form, and obviously the idea is to try and get it as right as you can in camera. But with these sorts of more fantasy type images, a lot of it is going to be bringing other bits and pieces in and putting it together for a final image. So I think you're also going to have two different schools of thought. The one where people are saying, well, is this really photography, and the rest saying, well, this is part of the process now. And I think that it's everyone, each to their own. If you don't like it, well, that's fine. If you do like it, well, that's also fine.
I mean, I think it is photography because I'm using a camera,
Yes.
and at the end of the day, it's artistic. That's why it's fine art photography, I suppose, because
Yes.
yeah, I do use other tools, whatever, but I do use my camera. I mean, my camera is taking the major part of the images. That's the other thing, is that I generally try not to use other people's images in my
Right.
composites. I generally try to use the skies that I have. I have a stock library full of
Yes.
images that I've kind of kept aside for just such an occasion. So I'll have a folder with, clouds, animals, people, benches, candelabras, whatever. And if I don't,
Yeah.
if I have something that's not really working in an image, I'll have a sift through the library and kind of pluck something out, and that works great. But yeah, I mean, I don't think today's age, what's real? It's not. You can't really say. I mean, especially with the new tech that's coming out, like these Google glasses and the Google, what do
Yeah.
you call it? Those. I mean, it's soon we're going to be working in 3D. Like I have a feeling that's coming. Our tech is moving so quickly now that it's impossible to say this is 100% real. Even something that's not. Even if you don't process your images at all, the image that you're getting out of your camera, if you're shooting in RAW, is unprocessed, completely unprocessed,
Yes.
and it's dull. I mean, that has to be processed to look like normal, like a normal photograph, like a JPEG. And the
Absolutely.
processing, it's left in your hands at the end of the day. And how little and how much, or how much is up to you, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's exactly where having your own style comes in. You have the opportunity, if you're shooting in RAW, to push it in a direction that you want to go in. And I'm absolutely fine with that. And especially when you're talking about fine art images, you've got to make it yours, and produce the art that you're happy with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a style is something that I lambasted myself about for many, many years. I was like, oh my God, I've been a photographer for 6 or 7 years and I still have my definite style and whatever. And I was like, this is just disaster. I can't call myself, because I've kind of shot everything. I'm not I don't shoot one thing. I mean, I've literally shot absolutely everything. I've shot
Yeah.
weddings and events and fashion and portraits and cars and products and whatever. I mean, I'm a photographer for money. You pay me, I'll shoot it. That's basically how it works with me. But
Yes.
but I think finding your style is something I've literally only discovered, that there's a theme that runs through my images in the last year. Literally, since actually what happened was that that Instagram has got that best of 9, the
Yes.
best of
Yes.
9 images. I did that last year, and there was a definite kind of blue toned fantasy theme running. I was like,
That's interesting.
oh, that's what my style is. Okay. And it's actually been great. Now that I know, I can kind of move in a direction.
Yeah.
But I think, I mean, I was shooting for 10 years before that, and I had no idea what my style was. So I don't think you should lambaste yourself too much. Everyone speaks about having a style and whatever. I don't think it's that important. I think you must just shoot what you love and are passionate about, because that will show through in your work, again and
Absolutely. I agree
again.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I've got some other images. I'm just going to carry on flipping through there. If anyone's got any questions, please hit me up. I've got no questions. But yeah, these are basically just probably my best of the last year. Sorry, that was going a bit fast. My best of the last year. And they really range from pretty much anything. This is actually quite an interesting shoot. These two girls, these images that I showed you, these girls over here, were two friends
Right.
who actually came and said they wanted to come shoot with me. But they really screwed me around on the day. They were coming and they weren't coming, and they were coming at 9 o'clock and they were coming at 1 o'clock, and then they arrived
Yeah.
and they were half drunk, and it was just like a disaster.
Okay.
And they actually arrived, and as they arrived, it was the most beautiful day, and they wanted this kind of fairy shoot. And I literally took them to a park down the road. It was also still quite during lockdown, so it was quite naughty that we were
Yeah.
actually shooting. But we went to a park down the road, and it was the most beautiful blue summer's day, and the sun was baking hot. And this was shot at about 12:31 o'clock in the afternoon, with
Wow.
no clouds in the sky, full bright day. And yeah, this is the only shoot I've ever done along those lines. But yeah, it's fun when you can and you know how. This was another shoot that was also for a designer. So there's a lovely designer who, Marlies, who I use quite extensively for her dresses. She does all this she designs dresses for the Baroque opera, for the, what do you call it, the Vietnamese opera. She sends all of her dresses overseas. And I created this kind of background with these fluffy clouds, and what's in the fluffy clouds is the cushioning from the inside of my couch.
Okay.
I literally took the cushioning out, and I just strung it up and painted the background blue, and painted all these dresses and used all these dresses with this other girl, and yeah, it was a great day and it was lots of fun as well. Yeah, same set.
I must say, just going back to that image with those two friends on that little bout,
Yes.
um, I, I find it hard to believe that was during the day. I think it's, when I saw this, I was thinking, it must be like a full moon, and you've got a little bit of light
Yeah.
that you put on them, because that's what it says to me. It's absolutely, that's what it is. So well done for
Yeah.
taking a midday shot and
That was
turning it into that.
12:30 in the afternoon. I just punched up my lights. I had one Godox 200
Yeah,
on the, no, I had two. Yeah, I had two. And I just punched them right up, pushed them up to their full exposure, and put my shutter speed right up so that it was basically dark in the background, and just glue them with the light, and that was it. And I was actually, I'd seen it done on several different kind of YouTube. I don't know if anyone else does this, but before I ever go do a shoot, because I shoot such a wide variety of different things, I gorge out on YouTube. So I'll go, and if I'm shooting corporate portraits, whatever, I'll go the night before and I'll go and watch 17,000 million episodes of, how to do corporate portrait on YouTube.
Yes.
Just to kind of, refresh my brain. And the day before, I'd watched this kind of tutorial on how to shoot in direct sunlight and not make it look like night. And that was it.
Right.
And yeah, thank God for YouTube.
No, it's I really like the way that it turned out. It's completely, not what I would have assumed. Christy wanted to know if you also made those crowns.
Yes, I did. And they were the easiest thing to make in the world. It was Susati sticks, a glue gun, an Alice band, and some flower, some fabric roses from China Mall, and that was it. And I think the other one on the other side, that's like some stones. So I just put in a piece of like leather. Yeah, I love doing that. That's my favorite thing in the world, is making crowns.
I think there's going to be a collaboration with you and
Yes,
Christy.
I know. I'm thinking as well. There should be, the most definitely. You're most welcome to give me a shot. I'd love to go shooting anytime.
There you go, Christy, sorted. And the ones with the wings, is that a background that you added in as well? Or was that
So
also
no,
in
that was
your
actually,
studio?
that was done in my studio. But what I've actually done is I've just added a texture. So you go online or you photograph paper, and you just use your Photoshop to put it on a different kind of layer mask. So you put it on soft light, or I can't remember what it is, or linear light, and it actually just lets the texture of the paper kind of come through. And it gives it a little bit more, because if you take away all that texture, it's quite flat. So yeah, basically it's just shot at home on a normal wall, and then I just added it in afterwards.
A normal wall with 77 layers of different color paints.
Yeah. Yes. I was actually thinking that I was wondering the next time we actually move out, because I have a studio in my garage. I have a double garage, and I've got wood floors down and whatever. But I must have painted my walls, my one wall, probably about 50 or 60 times now, and I'm sure that paint is actually going to be quite thick by the time we leave. So yeah.
So it used to be a double garage, but now it's more like a 1.5.
Yeah, something like that.
I really loved the whole process of going through the Impasto process and the way that you go through your images. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to bring you back here. There we go. All right. Yeah, so I mean, I think that the amount of technical issues that we've had today, I'm amazed that we managed to get through it all. Load shedding, some sound issues.
Oh, it's been a nightmare. I mean, the whole thing. I couldn't believe it when they said from 6:30 to 8:30. I was like, no. But yeah, sorry about that.
No, it's absolutely fine. I think these things happen, and I'm glad that we could get you on to go through the images and show people what you do. And I definitely think that you and Christy need to do a collaboration, and then we'll feature those images.
Yeah, I'm super
do a
excited.
whole thing on that as well, because I think that'd be very, very cool. I know, I can see from your comments that she's keen on that. So yeah, I think it's
absolutely. I'm too excited. Awesome.
No, that's very cool.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on and taking the time. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure we'll see more of your images and Hunters of Light in the next coming weeks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, and good night, everyone. Thanks for watching.